Hello, Mr. Secretary, Mr. Prime Minister. My first question is to both of you. I understand there are sensitivities about Hamas response, but I'm wondering, Mr. Secretary, how do you plan to overcome Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's refusal to commit to a permanent ceasefire after the phases of the deal? Was there anything in the Hamas response that you think might change his mind? And Mr. Prime Minister, could you help us understand why the reply took a week? Was it communication challenges, the difficulty to reach Yahya Sinwar? Are you worried that the fighting is actually hampering the communications on this important area of negotiation? And one more for you, Mr. Secretary. I'm going to try to ask a similar question that my Qatari colleague asked, maybe a little less directly. It's been 4 months into this war, and this is your 5th trip, and yet the United States seems unable to meaningfully influence Benjamin Netanyahu's position on some fundamental issues that you yourself advocate for: the creation of a Palestinian statehood, how long Israel's military campaign in Gaza will last, minimizing civilian casualties. Aren't you worried that this makes America look weak, and it undercuts its ability to rally allies and partners in other foreign policy issues? And in that sense, what can you do differently, for example, tomorrow? Thank you.
Want me to start? Yeah, please go. Thank you. 3 questions for you.
First, Samara, on the hostage question, I appreciate you asking the question. You'll appreciate that I'm not going to answer it because the sensitivity of this matter is such that we're just not going to get into any of the details. All I can say is what you've heard from both me and the Prime Minister, which is that we've received a response to the proposal. We are studying it intensely. It's been shared with the Israelis. I'll pick up that conversation tomorrow in Israel when I'm there, and we will be working as hard as we possibly can to try to get an agreement so that we move forward with not only a renewed but an expanded agreement on hostages and all the benefits that would bring with it. Virtually everything that we do in diplomacy in general, and in the case of this crisis more specifically, is a process. It's almost never flipping a light switch. And it requires being in there with your sleeves rolled up every single day to try to make progress in all of the areas where we've been determined to make progress. And I think if you look at the record, we've seen important steps taken, significant steps taken that I would argue would not have happened without our engagement and our intervention, including the provision of humanitarian assistance to begin with to Gaza, which was not the case in the days following October 7th, the significant expansion of that assistance, the efforts to open more crossing points into Gaza, the work that we're doing every single day to try to strengthen protection for civilians, our efforts as well to prevent the conflict from escalating. And despite some of the recent actions that have been necessary in response to violence that we've seen directed at our personnel and our people, we've been working effectively to do that. In each and every one of these areas, we have achieved results that, had we not been engaged, I believe would not have been achieved. But in all of these areas, there is much more work to be done, and in a number of places, we need to see, as I've said before, real and clear results, not simply a change in intent, but a change in what actually results. And I will be discussing all of that when I'm in Israel tomorrow, as we have throughout this trip.
Well, regarding your question about why the response took too long, of course, there are a number of challenges that we are facing throughout the negotiations. It's not something new, and what's happening on the ground in Gaza, it affects the course of the negotiations all the time, and this is something that we've been highlighting in many occasions. Communication was representing some challenges, but also the negotiation itself, it took some time in order to get them to a place where we get that response. Overall, as the Secretary mentioned here, and we have mentioned earlier, that it's not also for the benefit of the negotiations to reveal any of the details, but the overall prospect of this looks for us, at least as we received it, giving more promising and more prospects for a better results. We are hoping to see it and to see it yielding very soon.